If you were building a company now, don't be afraid of what you don't know. The access to knowledge is infinite. You can go to these AI tools and just have them help you figure it out.
If you're still doing it the old way, you're just going to be lapped. But also, I will look back and say there is still a sanity check that's required as you work with these tools.
It's assuming what you would like to see, which makes it more of a mirror. So you need to be so sure that your ideas and convictions are correct for the market, grounded in reality.
It's a fantastic tool, but it still does come down to the hero's journey, the founder's mission. That's still driving the bus.
We are here to talk about what does a startup team actually look like in 2026, and how is that different than maybe it was in 2020? What people are involved, what tools are involved, not to lead the witness too much, but we're going to talk about our growth as founders and also how that's changed over the past couple of years.
It really has transformed dramatically, and we have been riding the wave. Years from now, in particular you, but also I will look back and say, wow, that was really sort of the dawn of the AI age, obviously, but how that impacts entrepreneurship. Like in 2020, I had a vision, right? As entrepreneurs have to do, right? You got to know your why do you feel that you can change the world? That has really never wavered, which is comforting and still gives me, great joy and is sort of the driving force. So I saw a thing with Steve Jobs the other day. It's like you have to love what you do because it's hard. And still at night after a hard day, the spark will come back. So that's great. But back in 2020, as you graduated from school and joined me in this journey, there was a lot we didn't know. So we had a North Star of what I want this tool to be, but I don't know how to do this and I don't know how to do that. And we don't have any money and we can't raise any money until we have some traction, but we can't get traction until we have a product and team that knows what they're doing. So it really was a very much a chicken and the egg situation. So what do? You bring in people, you try to entice people with enthusiasm and cunning to join your journey, and we were able to do that.
It worked for me.
Yes, good. I'm glad, and it's still, you have to find that well of enthusiasm, right, to be a leader of the team, and we are both doing that now.
Yeah, and a lot of our time was taken up communicating that enthusiasm and that North Star. And that communication where the rubber meets the road was meetings. We were in meetings all day, every day with the contributors to the startup that we were just embarking on, and how that has changed over the past handful of years.
Well, you touched on a great point. Just the talking that is required. You have to find the person, right? And have that introductory meeting, that sort of courtship of who are you and what's your experience? And well, this is what I'm building. And what do you think of this? Do you like it? Do you really like it? And one partner we engaged, I think it took 6 months before, of sort of a little bit, well, let's get together another week or two and see where we are and see what I think. That just took a long time. And how do you compensate those people? Was for us through equity shares, B shares, and I would say to its aspiring entrepreneurs out there, it's very important to get your legal work solid out of the gate, a strong foundation, and we'll touch on that how that's changing too in a minute. But we were fortunate in that we could give away B shares, compensate providers, subject matter experts to join the team and compensate them for their efforts through B shares without it killing the company. But yeah, we had to give pieces away for skill sets that we didn't have.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful to go back and sort of reframe the problem statement and like what we were trying to accomplish in these moments, by seeking out experts in their domains. What domains did we feel that we did not have strength in, and that we needed, knowledge workers, to come and assist us in filling those gaps.
100%. I mean, it was, again, passion only goes so far, but neither one of us knew anything about marketing really, real data driven marketing, go to market, video strategy, sort of agency processes and workflows, documenting those, implementing those, branding, design, tech, architecture of that tech. That's sort of 80% of what you got to do. And we had passion and a vision that we were able to bring people under our tent to work towards those things. But we really needed to your earlier point, we needed to talk about those things and lay out deliverables and hope that those providers would deliver and not get bogged down in other things. Again, because we weren't paying them, they had full-time gigs in most cases. So our urgency was not necessarily reflected, in their output because we couldn't demand it, we weren't paying for it, and so it just took forever. But now it's changed.
100%, and we'll dive into that. But I think from a pure company building standpoint, it's nobody's fault. People come and go. They are busy with other things. But in order to really build a company, and what has not changed through the age of AI, is pure dedication and 100% dedication, right? You cannot have other irons in the fire if you're working towards something truly disruptive and following that North Star mission that you spoke of. Um, and when you have people who have other responsibilities, again, understandably, you end up playing catch up and sort of filling them in on the work that you've been doing so that you can get their input on those domain expertise areas that you lack.
That's a really great point to the meetings that we had to have. It's you and I as founders have the sort of the hair on fire energy to do the thing, and then we would have these periodic meetings, and it was just sort of us updating them on what we had done or even what we had agreed to, and not completely. There were certainly contributions, but it was just sort of the scales were tilted again, just by sort of the nature of the relationships and the sort of the situations of everybody's lives. And so now, and there's a lot of talk about this. We're not inventing this, but the idea of a $1 billion sort of 3-person startup, given these AI tools, I guess that's the punchline, is that the AI tools over time, really over the last sort of 18 months, replaced many of those functions. I mean, honestly, marketing was the first to go. Like we had a subject matter expert on the team providing whatever they could in terms of time and expertise and passion. But when we could just sort of query an LLM, increasingly capable, the work product we were getting back sort of instantaneously and 24 hours a day was surpassing what we were waiting on an expert to contribute. And that's just not sustainable. And it was sort of dominoes that fell, and ultimately to development, right? Coding, which you sort of have picked up over the last year. It's been about a year, and you can speak to this, but we've let go of I would say several development resources because we can do it ourselves and working at a pace and an urgency that these LLMs and AI tools can keep up with.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of areas where AI has disrupted company building.
I think what our point is, you can cut to the chase now. If you are an entrepreneur with an idea, with a gap in the market that you see clearly, and for us, Matt, over years, we would get these signals, for me at least, market validation through TikToks or even more importantly, sort of being out in the market, right? And they talk about that a lot, is solving a problem that you are familiar with, conversations that we had with real people trying to solve a real problem and having to find other resources to help us attack that problem. Now it's a straight line. Is you can query an LLM and still lead that process. It's very much dialogue now, and we do that every night with our array of tools. But you can just advance the ball down the field so much faster. And I guess if we had to impart any wisdom, and again, we sort of lived in the golden age, right, of entrepreneurship because it's changed now. It's a quicker pace. Good or bad, I don't know. It's different for sure.
Yeah. Just to build on that, I think if you were building a company now or thinking of building a company now, don't be afraid of what you don't know, right? The access to knowledge is infinite. If you don't know how to do something, whatever that is, place ads, write code, legal work, even, right? You can go to these tools and just have them help you figure it out. So it's really your own ambition and drive towards that problem that you're trying to solve that will get you the furthest.
Right. And I don't know if that was a softball to tee up for me or not, but I will take aim. Particularly around financial modeling, right? I'm not a numbers guy, which, is perhaps a detriment in some ways for an entrepreneur. Like, you need somebody that can do that. And I had a friend that did that, and he would do a model, and we would I would sort of struggle to absorb that. And then when we made sort of changes to the business, oh, we should update the model, but he just did it, and I don't want to ask him again. And I've got questions, but I feel like an idiot, right? It's like you could sit with Claude all night with sort of remedial tutoring. I don't understand this. Please explain it to me again. And it can get you there. You mentioned legal work, perfect example. And perhaps that's one of the final shoes to have dropped for us, is that my startup attorney is $500 an hour. Well, that really hurts when you don't have any money and you have a question that you need answered. It started a year ago, year and a half, maybe two, where we would sort of query Claude in particular, as our favorite tool, Anthropic, and get good answers, not sort of viable legally necessarily. I don't know if I'd rely on that, but good direction, education. Again, I don't understand this legal document. I can't call my guy for a tutorial. It's too much. It's too much money. It's $150 every time he answers the phone. So recently, I have found a service called Soxton, Soxton, that is basically real lawyers supplemented by AI, and it's a very reasonable fee. I think it's $100 a document and $20 a month or something. Don't hold me to that, but it fits within a startup budget. And it says the disclaimers, they won't represent you in court. Like, if you've got real legal issues, that's not for them. But in particular startups, when you're just getting going, you just need a solid foundation. You just need something that will hold water down the road. You need guidance. And it can be that sort of initial documentation can be accomplished through this new AI tool. We talk a lot about disruption, AI disrupting industries all across white collar work, right? Legal, accounting. Well, legal is in its sights for sure.
Honestly, for me, the way that company building has changed the most over the past 3 or 4 years is you've gone from worrying about other people's availability and the work product that they're going to be able to return to you to keep the ball rolling. And now it feels as though I'm just trying to juggle all of these balls of AI agents and the work that I have them doing for me. AI agents loosely defined, whether it's Claude Code terminals or products, tools that have been built for specific use cases. My own capacity of being able to manage all of those and make sure that they're swimming in the right direction has become the biggest bottleneck uh, in my day-to-day life.
Again, TikTok is my window on the world, and you got to sort through it. But I see a lot of wise advice there. Somebody said, he was a VC or something. It's like, if you are building today and you don't have six agents spinning up all the time, then you're falling behind every day. If you're still doing it the old way, you're just going to be lapped. And I know that you are, again, as a non-technical person, background wise, you don't have a computer science degree. It's been the last year and a half that you've picked up these tools. You are spinning those plates. And I feel that we are, running as fast as we can. To your point, that's all I can do is manage the inputs that it gives me. So I literally, with Claude in particular, will have conversations through Whisper or sort of a cut and paste on another sort of voice capture tool that I like. But hey, I've got an idea. What do you think of this? Oh, that's fantastic. And here's how it fits in the structure of what you've already got. And would you like me to blow out this, 8-page strategy brief? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. A year ago, it was sort of question and answer, and wow, that's interesting. That's going to be a great help. And now I'm holding the reins literally, and it's producing so much stuff And the big picture is blowing my mind to such a degree that really my challenge now is coordinating all that, which
Yeah.
is just fantastic.
And you see that popping up, across Twitter, and maybe you have some insight into this, but Karpathy of Anthropic is speaking about the second brain through using tools like Obsidian and Markdown files and being able to just manage all of the context that you have for these models and tying it together in some way that creates a literal web um, to just level up the context that these models have on what you're trying to do and what the next step of that process might be. So it's almost transitioned where the job of a founder is just staying coherent in what moves the needle the most and on track with all of the plates that you were spinning, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and I'd like you to talk a little bit more in depth about your context approach. Mine is sort of the less technical of our duo. I have projects within Claude, and they're sort of pillars, I would say, of projects. Here's our go-to-market. Here's our, investors and angels and money raising. Here's even a personal one. And so I will just have ongoing conversations in all of these silos, and it creates markdown files, which are much lighter than PDFs, I'm learning, as far as credit burn. So it's got a Bible, it calls it. And at the end of the day, I sort of tell it what I did, and it updates those files, and I download and then upload back into Project Knowledge. I've got a Claude cowork that takes those markdown files from everything that I'm doing. And it's I guess it's that second brain like you're talking about. It's that personal assistant knowing exactly what I've got going on all the time. I am a little hesitant to rely fully on that because there's so much in there, so much that I want to get to. Sometimes, again, just like a relationship, it's like, well, don't let me forget about this. And that's not exactly what you said last time, and you are the sum of all human knowledge. So give me your best. It really is that, are they conscious or not? I don't know, but it is, I am developing a relationship with these tools in service of my entrepreneurial vision, and it's a very curious thing.
Where do you feel that they're letting you down? Where are you the bottleneck in managing all of this? Where does the rubber really hit the road for a CEO and founder president today of a small team?
That's a great question. It is still, the relationships that we are developing, speaking for myself, with these things. I had an interesting conversation because I sort of expressed some frustration. Being a founder is hard, and there are good days and bad days. And I was, one night saying, "Hey, Claude, I'm having a bad day," and just sort of dumped on it a little bit, just sort of as an experiment to see what it would do. And it switched the strategy on me. And it's like, well, if that's too hard, you should just do this. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what I meant. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. What we talked about before is the right path. So it's this constant sort of check-in with your own vision and psyche and sort of real world, if you will. Um, it's a dance for sure, and I still am guided by what I believe in my heart and what I see all around me as proof points. That is still the ultimate check-in for me. There's knowledge, there's inputs that I could never get on myself. I mean, it's a fantastic tool, but it still does come down to the hero's journey, the founder's mission. That's still driving the bus.
I think it's always important to remind yourself that these AI tools don't actually have an opinion. At the end of the day, it is still ones and zeros, and it's assuming what you would like to see, um, which makes it more of a mirror than anything else, right? So you are validating it in giving it your ideas and visions, but it will never do something you don't want it to do, right? Or it won't write the markdown file until you have agreed to write that markdown file because you feel that that is aligned to your mission and the direction that you want to go.
Well, that's interesting. I like the word mirror, right? And I saw a recent study about how it was agreeing with people, some of these LLMs, some of them worse than others, and I saw a score. I won't call anybody out, but people who are familiar with what we're talking about probably saw that too. That it sort of reinforces, wrong thinking, if you will, broadly stated, reinforcing somebody's thoughts that were not grounded in reality. And so, does it always agree with you, or can it really push back? And is it really helpful in the end if you're just sort of misguided? So there is that sort of real world check, and of course, I think there's a danger in just falling into building and feature building and spinning around in your own head. You need to validate it with customers, right? There is still a sanity check that's required as you work with these tools, and don't go too far down a road that real people are not validating.
Yeah. And I think, we started this conversation with what is it like to build a startup now compared to where we were before. I think that we're making more progress than we were before, but it's also objectively more lonely, right? If you are trying to go at this as a solo founder, good luck. Like we said, it is a mirror working with these tools. So you need to be so sure that your ideas and convictions are correct for the market. Um, if you don't have a co-founder or a co-partner to help bounce those ideas off of and keep swimming down river, uh, grounded in reality, right?
100%. And this is a little bit off the track of sort of AI tools and entrepreneurship, but a lot of talk about co-founders, finding the right co-founder and how fraught that can be for people with big ideas, right? You don't really know this person. It's going to be harder than you think, guaranteed. And when it hits the fan, if you're not, completely aligned or related or joined at the hip, as we are as father and son, if you enter into a bad legal agreement, 50-50, and we'll work it out later, that can be really problematic. So I'm not giving any advice there except to say I feel really fortunate to be building this with my son. We have family resources invested in this. I know, your situation and mine pretty well. Neither one of us is going anywhere, but yet we have different skill sets and different generational outlooks, and that is that sanity. And we're both human. We have good days and bad days, and so there is that partnership that is amplified, magnified, 10x, 100x by the tools themselves, but it still does come down to that human drive for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the atomic unit for building a company, it has never been one. There's sentiment out there that people think it may end up being one, but I would say that it's at least two. The first billion-dollar company operated by only one person, that's going to have to be a really darn special person to have that amount of conviction to be able to do everything necessary to create an actual business and scale it to that point. So,
Absolutely. And I think, if I could just finish, community is really important to our business model, right? And so it's not just me and you. We have a support team, a creative team. Certainly the customers are incredibly important for every startup, but we want to build community around that. I saw, how, if building in software is no longer the defensible moat, frankly, if you with a non-technical background can be doing amazing things with dedication and a number of hours, then a lot of people can. So can you out hustle everyone else, and can you build a community within that effort that supports you and uplifts you and really is the differentiator, to the product itself.
yeah, agreed completely.
We're starting this long form content creation, which seems to be sort of the playbook now, and it can filter down into other things. Your people are going to be starting to see me on Substack and LinkedIn a little bit more. We hear this all the time. It's about personal branding and building in public, and you got to tell people what it is you're trying to do, so they can kind of come along with you. And that's never really defined. There's no playbook for that. So we're going to be figuring that out as we go. But this new project that we are launching, telling a very personal story about this minor league baseball team that we did 30 years ago, BangorBlueOx.com. Really is sort of aligning again the anniversary and the sort of the reboot of that as a community memory. Really is perfect for layering on top of the Hero Network tool. So me as a power user, a showrunner. I know you don't like that term, but sort of guiding the storytelling, operating the tool in a really robust, in-depth way, and then being able to convey that to you as the lead developer and operations person to say, hey, Matt, I tried to do this, but it didn't work, or there ought to be a button there, or, wouldn't it be cool if, it's a very short distance between customer feedback and the product team now, which I think will really accelerate things, and it's very exciting.
So with that, follow our Substack, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a newsletter email going out. You can find that on our website, heronetwork.io. Our weekly musings. I am Matt. We are father and son, founders of Hero Network, a remote video platform where we turn conversations into polished social media content, or wherever you need video.